So on today's episode of this podcast, we're joined by John McLoughlin, a passionate entrepreneur, certified data privacy solutions engineer, and all-round visionary. John's got a relentless drive to get things done, currently focused on marketing and bringing the J2 software brand and making it a recognized technology and distribution leader and an example to other companies across the continent. John, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks very much for having me. All is going well. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, again, firstly, thank you for taking the time out your busy day to share a little bit about your story with us. It'd be great if you can kick us off with a sort of brief idea of what it is that you do and what sort of services you offer. That's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So J2 Software is an award-winning managed security services provider. And normally everyone goes, what does that mean? Well, I mean, essentially, we implement practical solutions and services for customers of all sizes, and we lead with cybersecurity. So we're driven by ensuring customers are able to work from everywhere securely, no matter the size of their business. So, in summary, we do things to stop bad things happening to good businesses and protect their digital assets. Because in the modern world, every business is pretty much a digital business nowadays.
Yeah, it's very true. And it's often overlooked by small businesses, the importance of cybersecurity, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the National Cybersecurity Center actually mentions that in some of their survey, small and medium businesses, smaller businesses and medium businesses spend less than £500 a year on cybersecurity, which is a massive underinvestment. And I'm not sure if it comes down to apathy or just not really understanding how big the risk is, or nothing's happened yet, so why should we do anything?
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those things like insurance, you kind of need it, but you hope you never used it type scenario, isn't it? Better off investing in it.
Some people sometimes say it is a little bit like an insurance policy, and obviously I'm not a fan of that thought, because the way I see cybersecurity and building cyber resilience is what we do, is it's actually an enabler to do more business, do
Okay.
better business, and be able to service larger markets.
So in terms of that investment, then you mentioned about the smaller businesses. How does that sort of correlate to the bigger businesses? How does it differ in terms of the investment bigger businesses are putting towards this sort of stuff?
Well, the strange thing is there's massive underinvestment across the board, and what we
Okay.
see often happening is people thinking that if they buy a solution, a service, a thing, that it's just
Okay.
going to solve all their problems. For me, it's a little bit like purchasing a new motor car and then expecting it to drive for you, and then never having to refuel it or recharge it, and expecting it to just carry on as the same way as you got it on the first day.
And to
It's
sort
not
of
the
know
way
where it
the
needs
world
to go
works.
without you telling it, sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just
Yeah.
not the way the world works. It's everything requires a little bit of massaging, making sure that you have visibility on these things. And that's the key piece for us, is
Okay.
there's no ways we can stop everybody trying to attack you, because we can't stop criminals trying to be criminals. But what we can do is we make sure there's total visibility, and our customers just continue working. That's ultimately the thing, and our team are fighting the good fight in the background.
And obviously at the moment, AI is a massive sort of talking point. What impact is that having on your industry?
Well, yeah, you can't speak to anyone that even touches anything to do with technology nowadays and not say AI.
Yeah.
I was wondering how long it would take before the term came up in conversation. It's good. There's good and bad. There's good and bad uses. So previously, it was much more difficult for people to fall victims to phishing scams and other sorts of items. But with the use of AI, the automation, there's no longer poorly worded
Mm.
emails with terrible grammar. AI has been utilized to launch automated attacks, auto robot dialers calling people, going they're phoning from HMRC or from Prime, and suddenly their Prime's going to auto renew at £87 unless they click one and speak to an attendant. So it's all of these things have been
Yeah.
automated, but in the same way, the ability to detect patterns is also being heavily utilized in the protection of our customers.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of automation, a lot of that, because that way we can see a lot more far quicker. So there are positives and negatives, and it's really interesting to see the way it unfolds over the coming months. And I wouldn't used to say see how things unfold over years, but with these kind of things, it's how it evolves over the next few months.
Yeah, there's a saying that I use quite a lot today is the slowest day of change for the rest of your life, because change happens quicker every single day.
Oh yeah.
Interesting. So how long you've been running for over 18 years now, haven't you?
Yeah, so the business originally launched, well, we first launched in South Africa back in 2006.
Yeah.
We're flying towards our 19th birthday. So essentially, the business as a group is an adult. We've always been focused on doing security in a way that helps people be secure, as opposed to selling them some piece of tech. Because
Yeah.
for me, cybersecurity is not about technology. Yes, it's enabled by it, but we're there to reduce risk. So yeah, launched in 2006, evolved massively since then. The business doesn't look the same, and we continually evolve as threats have changed. And then we have opened our UK business going on 2 years ago, and that's really been a big driver and kind of my time in terms of developing our brand,
Sure.
our presence, and growing our customer base into the UK, and then from there, Ireland and rest of Europe, and then we'll see how we take on the world thereafter.
There you go. So in terms of, being a business leader and over those years, what would you say your biggest challenges that you've come across, and how have you overcome them?
Well, there's several that pop straight into mind.
Okay.
First and foremost is I believe we've always been a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of, and we expected demand from customers to kick in far sooner than it necessarily did. We've been talking about things around automation, around visibility for almost 19 years. And only in the last few years have people started speaking the same language. We've had great success over time. We're very fortunate and very grateful. We work really hard for it, obviously. But the challenges have been education around people going, well, they don't actually realize how much of a risk it is that we work towards. And the other challenges are things often that caused me the greatest amount of stress, are the things that most often never happened. The things that I had thought up in my head that were going to be absolutely terrible.
Okay.
And as it turns out, like the things you can't control, they're not as bad as they're generally not as bad as you think.
Yeah.
Right? And then besides that, we have gone through several global recessions where it was the end of the world. And the amazing thing is now, looking back, the world didn't end. And things carried on. We've been through economic downturns, pandemics, all sorts of changes, and massive new laws coming in across the globe, different privacy laws, but different data protection laws, compliance requirements, and with all of these, there's a lot of uncertainty, and in reality, navigating that has been quite a challenge. And as a person running the business from the start, going through the pains in the beginning, one of the challenges I had for a long, long time was the idea that nobody else can do things as well as I can.
Yeah.
So I'll just do as much and all of those things.
Yeah.
And obviously that just doesn't lend itself to scaling a business. And being able to get to a place where you're able to have great people and let them do the things that they do in their way.
Yeah.
Will it be the same as I do it? No. Will it be better? Potentially.
Yeah.
Will it be worse? Probably not. But will it get done? Absolutely. And then focus on more key strategic items.
That's really good advice there in terms of that sort of strategy around thinking about what it's going to look like. Because more often than not, actually, it is better. Sometimes it might not be as good, but it'll get done. and having that team that sort of can help you deliver the business is really crucial.
Well, yeah, and what I've discovered over the years now is that often, having the right people is the key thing,
Yeah,
and they look at problems, they look at items, they look at things without that view, and without that view that I have, because J2 is my baby.
yeah.
Like I look at it completely differently than anyone else necessarily would have. I've been in this from day one, and and actually there are better ways and different ways to do it, and some things aren't actually all that important.
So that kind of ties back into what you were saying earlier around the things in your head didn't actually happen in real life as bad as you envisaged them. That sort of primal instinct around, survival, the fight, flight, fear sort of thing. It's quite a common thing within business owners. So how did you overcome that? Because obviously you've come through those challenges and you've got a great business. What sort of things did you do to sort of stop that or control that self-sabotage or those limiting beliefs?
Control or working on controlling,
Yeah,
it's an ongoing thing. I
yeah,
mean, it's something that, it's something that is still a work in progress. I'm far better than it is. I've spoken to a couple. We got some investors in the business. I've spoken to them. I've taken advice from others, and listened to be able to like extricate myself a little from my own thinking, and it's separating those things that actually have an impact and I have control over,
okay,
and those that I don't, and then adapting to fit within those. Yeah, who moved my cheese,
yeah.
that kind of thinking, that kind of mentality, and ultimately when there's something in place, rather than complain and whine about it, work out how you're going to work within those confines, whether it's a new law, some new legislation, new taxes, new whatever those uncertainties are. It's like, okay, well, what does it actually mean for me, our people, and of course our customers and partners?
Yeah, sometimes it's not so easy to do, is it? Sometimes quite challenging to
Oh,
actually
it's
do
super easy to speak about,
that.
absolutely,
Yeah,
but implementing it,
exactly.
you do it well at times. Yeah.
Yeah, but like you say, it's a work in progress. It's a constant thing. It's not something you fix and move on. Very good.
Yeah.
You mentioned about team and sort of fostering and enabling a team to come on board with you. And as you rightly say, your team is going to be able to take the business further than you could ever do on your own. What sort of things do you do when you're looking for the right team members? What sort of stuff are you looking for to make sure they're the right person that fit in with your organization?
Well, we've made a lot of mistakes over the years.
Okay.
There's no doubt about that, and some of those have been pretty costly. Even if it's just the stress of dealing with bringing the wrong person in. So what we've ultimately learned in time. So my business partner Jason, J2, that's where the name comes from, John Jason. But essentially we've evolved to make sure that we look more for a personality and cultural fit, as opposed to purely looking at what someone's skills are, because attitude for us is everything. We're in a rapidly changing environment, and we need a diverse group of people to do that. I mean, we have a large and diverse staff complement now. People come from all different backgrounds, and that adds value. But it's
Yeah.
the attitude, that the culture, the attitude and cultural fit that for me has been the critical piece, because a lot of people, you can immediately pick up whether they can learn a new skill and pick things up. The basic technical fundamentals for a particular role, that's one thing. Doing things the way we normally do it, and being able to then offer suggestions of how we can do it better. It's
Okay.
that kind of attitude that is far better than purely just the skill, because it's quite easy to employ a superstar into your team that very quickly destroys the culture in the business, because one toxic person leads to a lot of unhappiness. So that for us has been key. It's a cultural fit, the ability and willingness of people to learn and want to get stuck in. We always say to any new hire that, like, J2 is not a place where you can hide. You're not something where you click on a few buttons and you follow a system and you'll hide. We want you to be engaged. We want you to be part of the business. We want you to drive things forward and come up with ideas. And similar to your sign in the back, the biggest mistake is and do nothing. The other one is the most dangerous thing in the world to say is, but we've always done it this way.
Yeah,
So
very true.
we want people to be part of that continual improvement in our business.
It's a good point about the sort of the one individual can influence the whole team. You see that in sports teams all the time, don't you? Where, even if they're the best player on the pitch, for example, if they're not the right team fit, then the team suffers. So having a team and a cultural fit is by far more important than having one or two fantastic, amazing top performers that don't work well with the rest of the team.
Absolutely.
You mentioned about diversity, and having a diverse team is a really powerful way of growing a business across multiple countries and omni-channels and things like that. How do you manage the communication within the team and within that sort of cultural fit within a diverse team?
Well, yeah, diverse, where people have different lived experiences. I think that's really the thing, and being able to have open communication, because if I read something and somebody else reads it, the way they read it and understand it will be completely different just from where we are. If everybody was exactly like me, like, we'd never progress. That's the reality. So working as hard as possible to bring everyone's ideas and thoughts and that into play. I've found and listened to a couple of folks, and like, the whole idea is, if we're looking for new ideas, it's not a case of me starting the conversation going, well, I think we should do X, Y, and Z, because ultimately, just because of what the title says after my name, people are going to go, well, if he says, well, then we probably should go that way. So rather, listening and engaging, and then not responding right away. I like sending out surveys every 3 to 6 months, coming about where it is in our business, and we do them anonymously for our people, getting them to see whether they remember and understand what our vision and the values of the business are, and if any of them aren't correct, or what needs adjusting, what's working, what isn't working, what can be better, what areas are better, and we focus on different parts and processes of the business at all times, and then read through them. And some of the early ones were difficult to read, because turns out maybe I don't know everything, but and they become difficult to read, and it takes a little while to digest what people are saying, because they see it from where they're situated in the business and what will make things better where they are, which will ultimately make the entire engine run better.
Yeah, absolutely. How big's the team now?
We have just on 50 people.
Okay. So you've got, clearly a really, really clear open communication channels across the team. Mechanically, sort of how do you actually facilitate that? What sort of things do you do to ensure that communication channel is open on a two-way basis? Because clearly you're talking about two-way communication.
Yeah, so the various teams will meet regularly, and led by whoever's in charge of that particular department. We have regular engagements with our senior and middle management teams to be able to warrant those. And whenever I'm in various parts of the business, we also spend time in the same places that our teams are doing the work. So we have quite a number of people who are in office virtually all the time, because the collaboration works and it's more fun and all of those things. We also have a bunch of remote and hybrid staff too. So getting that mix right is it's not perfect, and I'd like to think we get better at it. Things we've implemented are sort of monthly catch-ups from different divisions within the business, some of the core things from our security team or our support team, generally as an overall for the business. That was something I hadn't realized was as important as it is that and it came from one of our surveys, is that people didn't really know how the business was doing. They knew they were really busy, and they knew they were speaking to loads of customers, and they knew, but everyone didn't really have an overall view. And up until a while back, we weren't telling people, like, these are our new customers, this is why they've come on board, these are the things we're doing for them, and this is how the business is going, and this is our aim over the next 3 months.
These are the results that they're getting from their efforts, and very good.
Absolutely.
Very
And
good.
that was quite an eye opener. That was one of them that was quite an eye opener. And the other one that we're in constant working on is finding the right marketing side, because that's what everyone just wants us to be better at marketing in our business. And it's something that we're always working on.
Good for you. Good for you. I mean, you've been running, like I say, sort of over 18 years now. You've come through some evolutions, you're expanding and stuff like that. Clearly very successful, and plans for future growth and things like that. What keeps you motivated and driven in this?
So I've always wanted to have a business that makes a real difference in the lives of people. And it's something I try to get across all the time. The work that we do is important. Like, we prevent things happening. We prevent bad things happening in good businesses. Those businesses are run by parents, sisters, brothers, aunts, moms, etc. They are the ones who need to get their kids into school, need to get their kids into university. They need to feed extended families, whatever those happen to be. And a lot of good is done by doing good business. And that is really, like, knowing we're making an impact, and we're keeping businesses, we're helping keep businesses running, so that those people can use their skills to develop their businesses in a digital world. Like, that's exciting. And I love the challenge. I love the challenge of a new environment. I love the engagement. I love dealing with people. I absolutely love dealing with people.
Fantastic. It's a great motivation. I love the stopping bad things happening to good businesses. Great strapline.
Yeah.
John, it's been really, really interesting talking. I could talk to you for hours about the business. You're clearly very passionate about what you do and doing a great job. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to share with us some of your learnings and some of the story. Before we wrap up, it would be great if you can just let the listeners know where they can sort of go to find out a bit more about yourself and J2.
Well, absolutely. So I'm relatively active on LinkedIn when time allows, or just stick us into any search engine, J2 Software. You should pick us up. And we got our UK sites, j2software.co.uk, and those are the easiest methods.
Fantastic. John, thank you again for your time. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.